Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
There's a song that was very popular when I was growing up, and it was called Comfortably Numb. Comfortably Numb was describing how we are as a society, disconnected from ourselves, carrying around wounds and traumas that we did not know. We were never taught on how to process. And let me clarify exactly what a trauma is. Trauma is anything that wires in your brain as something where you're not safe, where your needs are not being met. And so many times our brains can create these micro traumas that will seriously affect the rest of your life. I know that they have come for me from jokes, from different things and opinions, and what I thought somebody wanted or what somebody was saying or expected from me. Traumas are way more important than those massive big events because they are micro cuts into our soul and they wire our brains and they create dysfunction and they create pain and they create so many ways that it affects who we are as humans. And so we resort to that comfortably numb. We look to things to soothe us because that is a really uncomfortable place to be living in those micro traumas. In today's episode of Unlearn the Crap, we are going to be talking about how we have these traumas, where they live in our bodies and affect our lives. And we're going to give you solutions. You do not need to go through massive amounts of therapy. You do not need to make it a long, drawn out, painful process. Judith Labert is my guest. Judith and I are going to be discussing so many topics that I know you're going to find absolutely invaluable. So make sure you subscribe, join our conversation, text in, call in, because we really want to hear from you. Let's get started. Judith, could you join me, please? Hello and
Hello.
welcome to Unlearn the Crap.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
My pleasure. So you and I, when we first met, we had a very similar journey. And I'll start it off and I lead by vulnerability. So I'll share one of my favorite stories of a trauma that I carried with me that really made me ill. It affected my ability to have good relationships. It affected every area of my life. My mother she had this joke. She would say that I'm so perfect, I don't even have bodily functions. And that was a tone of voice she used. You knew it was a joke. You knew because we would have so much fun catching her in the bathroom or being human. But because my mother was my hero, she was the one I looked up to. Somehow, some way, my childhood brain wired it that there was something wrong with me if I needed to go to the bathroom. It created IBS. It created ulcers. It created fibromyalgia. It created disease and inflammation.
Yeah,
From a
that's
joke.
amazing. It's a great story because I think it's one of those things that a lot of times when we think of how what's impacting the body, it has to be something physical. You have an injury, but it's also belief. It's also what do we take in? Why are we doing what we're doing or not doing, right?
Absolutely. You have a similar story that led you to your journey on beliefs and how it negatively affected your life. Would you mind sharing and letting people know how much of an expert you are on these little micro traumas?
Yeah. So I'm a trauma therapist, and a number of years ago, a lot of different events happened between the death of my dad, moving, just some of my own health stuff, just knowing something was off. I think the catalyst of it was just kind of everything coming together and, work stresses, um, just so many different pieces. My husband was going through some stuff. We were just struggling. I was struggling. And bodybuilding, used to do a lot of working out. Everything just came to a head, and I just wasn't doing well. I just didn't even know it. I didn't even get it at the time as to what all was causing the problems. And so, like the typical person, feel like we see this all the time, going to the doctor. What's wrong with me? All the blood tests are normal. This is fine. I don't know what's wrong. You see a little something that might be a little off, but not enough to really mean anything, right? And just me struggling through my journey. One piece of it was later on, my mom was diagnosed with a cancer. And so when I was like, okay, I'm going to dive into some of these books because I know that there's some value here that I'm not catching, something I just need to be, I guess, more privy to. And so diving into these and seeing exactly the rare type that she had, and every little piece, and how it was linked to the emotions that were the strongest in my mom. So a lot of resentment and bitterness and certain things that were totally just right there with her. And so I'm just thinking, oh man, like this is what's getting you right now. This is part of it. This is not helping the situation. And how that's probably been lingering in so many ways for so long. And so there's just a lot of pieces that were like, okay, I need to pay attention to my own journey a little bit more, because sometimes, you have those moments of, I'm the expert, this can't happen to me. Well, I was humbled really quick and decided, okay, I need to get on track and learn more. And so that opened up my path to lots of different things to help me on my journey.
Yeah, that's really big. I hope your mom is well. And And I want to say that so many of us have these moments where something has happened, but we
Hmm.
also come into this world with the traumas of those previous to us. It has been proven that there are generational wounds that get built into the chemical of our DNA. And that's epigenetics, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and some people know them also as miasms. When I first heard that word, I thought it was a spiritual word. And so I was like, what is this? But it actually is some of those generational pieces that get passed down that might be a disease or something that lingers in the body and continues on. So it's amazing
Wow.
how the body just keeps it, right?
Well, that's the thing that I am on a mission. And one of the reasons why I asked you to be on this show is because we know that we have feelings, but we were
Hmm.
told, suck it up, buttercup, don't let them see you cry. All of these idiisms that we were taught. And so, what do? We push, we suppress, we push, we suppress. And but those emotions, yes, they're vibrational, they're feelings that we feel, they go out into the world, but they also create chemicals and
Yep.
hormones in our body.
Yeah,
could you
they
could you
do.
explain that?
And as we know, even just with stress alone disrupts, our whole system. It disrupts the gut, it disrupts the chemicals going into our brain. So, good or bad, we need to be able to figure out that balance.
Absolutely. I just had the image pop into my head of a pool. I grew up with a pool. And so every day I'd have to stick my hand deep into the water with the tester kit and bring up the water. And then we would test all the different chemicals to make sure that it was balanced. Which is, and then we would add, pH up or pH down or whatever was going on. But we don't do that for our own body.
We don't. No. And I think that's just one of those things that we're not taught. We didn't really maybe know for the longest time as to what impacts us and how much and what to do about it. So I think we're living in a time now where it's becoming more, I guess, more aware of just all the tools that are out there, that we have more accessibility to things, more knowledge, more research that's helping us better understand our bodies and all the tools, all the things that are, the stress, what does it do to us? All those generational pieces, everything.
Could you expand on that and explain what we're learning now? What is different? Because there's still a large portion of people that think it's always been like this. Life has been like that. So we've normalized stress. We've normalized this zoning out, this living in a place of comfort and just numbing and comfortably
Mm-hmm.
numb, like that song. So could you
Yeah.
explain, because you're a trained trauma therapist, how are you trained and what's different?
Oh, I have a lot of different trainings, but I think what people are realizing now, one of the big things that, I mean, I've known it for a long time. I think a lot of people have, but it's becoming a little bit more mainstream, is the gut-brain axis. And so some people may be hearing about that and wondering, what does that mean? But it really is about how the gut and everything that's going on, good and bad, impacts the brain. And so, and vice versa. We have just different little microsystems in our body of everywhere. So we've got our mouth and our, not just the gut and the brain, but they all interact with one another. And so it's all communicating. And so if our hormones are off or we're not having the right bacteria, that's not only going to impact our health, the gut, right? But it's going to translate to what's going on in the brain, which is a lot of times where that mental health piece can come in. So they are very much interconnected.
Well, I love the fact that for so long we had specialties in everything. We had like the brain specialist and the heart specialist and the lung specialist, as if you could take that part out and just fix that, and it had no interaction with the rest of our body. And that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing one time, why do we have health insurance that doesn't include your eyes and your teeth, right? Because they're all one system. And it's like, the first time I heard that, it was a little like, oh yeah, why is that? Because, if you have high blood pressure, you have something going on with your heart, something like that, doesn't that impact your eyes? You might have some issues of what's going on there. Or, when we're talking hormone imbalances or blood sugar, it's going to impact what's going on if you've got a rotten tooth in your mouth. It doesn't just sit there, it's not isolated. So where is it impacting the rest of the body? So yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing the first time I heard that and didn't really think about it before. So, but it is, we do segment those pieces and it's interesting.
As if we can do that. And so let's go back to trauma. We only have a little bit for this topic, and I'm going to move on after our break. But I want to talk about the trauma and what that trauma does. Could you explain how those traumas are interconnected?
Yes. So, well, trauma is when they're interconnected. I feel like it's a little bit of a storm, like I was describing in my story, where, different traumas affect our brains, affect our bodies in different ways. And so it does create different responses. A lot of times it's going to talk about like nervous system, those types of things, that it's going to disrupt not only the gut with based on the stress, but we've got nervous system, we've got just all these different elements. How does that impact our mood, right? So trauma is not just an event that happens, but it really does encompass the entire body.
Absolutely. So, when we come back from commercial, we're going to talk about some methodologies and some science and some really fascinating new information that we are working hard to bring mainstream. While we're on commercial, don't forget to subscribe and comment and like, and we'll see you back in a minute.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
So, this is where I get really excited and really geeking out. When I had my complete breakdown and I was as broken can be, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you name it, I was broken. And I realized that if I was going to heal, I had to go on my own healing journey. I did not know there were people like you, because my teaching was that you went to the medical system and everything else was woo woo. And so I had to put the pieces together, which, when I look back on it, being that broken, and being able to find the resources I did, I know that I had some divine guidance leading me through the process. But at one point, years ago, before I had my breakdown, I had fibroids and I had cysts in my uterus. I had so much uncomfort constantly in my pain, and I couldn't, or in my gut, and I couldn't tell if it was my gut or if it was my uterus. I couldn't tell if it was my fibromyalgia. I couldn't tell anything. So I ended up having a complete total hysterectomy, because I had said, well, the oven's broken, or the oven is closed for business. We're not baking any more babies. So I was ready to let it go and move on. But when I had my breakdown, I went into looking for energy healing. And I found Dr. Bradley Nelson, who you and I are both major fans and practitioners of his work. But I learned, because I thought, if everything is chemical and we're releasing these hormones and we're releasing these chemicals, and if it's being trapped in inflammation, how do I get that out? How do I release it? And so I learned how to become an emotion code and a body code practitioner, which I know you are as well. And I remember that Albert Einstein had said the future of medicine will be in energy healing. And so,
Yes.
with all of this, I went about in my own self healing journey. I found over, um, I think it was over 200 trapped emotions of self abuse in my uterus.
Wow.
Self abuse. And so, I mean, when you think about self abuse, you would think about flagging yourself or, any of these things. Or you would think about cutting or any other way that you could abuse yourself. But what I realized as I went through that journey, that self abuse was every time I let myself down, every time I put
Mhm.
someone else's needs before my own, every time I let somebody do something to me. And when I say let, I mean, I went into freeze mode. And so I ended up being hurt quite a few times. And that was all trapped. And the minute that I released that last emotion, I've never felt that pain again. Can you talk about your journey to becoming an emotion code and body code practitioner?
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting story. I don't even know exactly how I got connected with the gal who taught me a little bit about it. I think she was probably posting on social media, or she was in a group of something, and we were talking, and um, I was like, "This is kind of interesting. I don't know what I think of this, but okay, I'll do a session. Teach me how this works. I'm curious." And some of the things she came up with were things that nobody would have known. Like, she did not ask me. It was just stuff where it's like, yep, this happened when you were, like early 20s with a male. And I was married before, divorced, and there was a lot of stuff that happened. And so, like, she was able to be like, okay, this feeling of maybe it was self abuse or whatever it was, does that resonate at this age? And I'm just like, okay, yeah. Or the things like, my mom's resentment, or just some of these things where she could pinpoint my mom had this resentment and I'm carrying something that's related. And I was just like, how on earth does she know this? And she explained, it's just muscle testing and, but that by proxy piece. And, when I started looking into it, and same thing, I was like, is this a little woo woo is this weird? What is this? There's a Christian version of the emotion code. So it's looking into it, there's so much information about how it's basically just energy. And when we pray, that's energy. So if I'm going to say I'm going to pray for you, we're not in the same space right now. So is my prayer less effective because you're in a different place, a different location? I don't think so. That's not how we're taught. So why would any other energy be any different? And so when you ask for, I feel like any modality has, those connections of being a little woo-wooey depending on who the practitioner is, right? But it doesn't mean the practice as a whole is. And so that's where I was just, okay, I'm sold. I feel like this is very spot on, because when you see those um you know those just emotions that are somewhere, and then you see that emotion move through, that it's gone, then those pains don't exist anymore, or that freedom to just be a little bit better. I just noticed there was things in my own life that I didn't feel maybe like so guarded about, or there was just certain shifts that I felt happen that I was like, I can't really explain it. I don't know if anybody else sees it, but I know. And so it was just really interesting. And that's where I was like, I need to know more. I need to dive in. I need to learn. And so now, I have that emotion code, body code, belief code, and then now global energy method master practitioner. So I've gotten like pretty much the full gamut of all of the modalities, because they're all just a little bit different, but very, very similar and powerful.
I love that. One of my favorite stories when I was practicing with clients is I remember one woman said, while you're doing the energy healing on me, the emotion, I was doing body code actually. She says, I'm just going to sit and meditate. So
Mhm.
she meditated while I was doing it. We were on like a Zoom thing. And I discovered traumas that she had had with being sexually abused. I could pinpoint when and where. I could pinpoint the effects that it was having on her physical body. I never met this woman. I did not know her. We only met virtually. There is no way. And I am not a person that is in mediumship or intuitive. I knew that this wasn't me. I was not uncovering this. And so
Yes.
the power of her subconscious to say, it hurts here. Come fix me, come release it. Do you have a fantastic story about that as well?
Oh, I have a lot. I think one of my absolute favorites is with one of my clients. For her, it was that feeling of kind of that heaviness that she just couldn't shake. And so she's generally a positive person, but she just kind of felt like, why is this dark cloud always following me? Why can't I let this go? Like, what is it? And so I said, well, let's dive in. Let's see what we can do. Like, do a little belief coding, body code, whatever we need to do. And it was just fascinating to uncover some events that she's like, I haven't even thought about some of these events since I was who knows how little, probably 3, 4, 5 years old. Things that happened at grandma's house or just other pieces. And then one part of it too is that even just when we think of the generational piece, it was, I don't even remember how many generations. It was something like 20 generations. And we both had the same image in our head. So she had this image of being in hiding and having to hide. People were looking for her. And it was just super powerful for her. And she had the sense that it was almost like a Salem witch trial type of thing. Like there was something that she was, you know, not really doing wrong, but that they were coming after her or maybe using an herb or something like that. And I had the same sense that I was like, oh, this feels like you're, being hunted or something. And when we compared stories at the end, it was just kind of mind-boggling to think, wow, we both had the same imagery. And when I said, yeah, I thought of this, and she said, yeah, me too. And it was this color. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And it's like, it's her story, but I'm still living it right there with her and just getting these senses. And, she, once that was over and we had this session, she has not had that feeling again. And so all of these pieces that, maybe it's the generational piece primarily, I don't know, but there was something big that was there for a really long time in her world that was impacting her. And there was probably a few other little things we released along the way, but I think that was just a very powerful testimony of like, wow, this is really, it really works. You really get that connection with people.
Yeah, because we can heal ancestral traumas. We can heal and cut the ties, which is why I'm so passionate about it. I remember
Oh, it's
working with
amazing. Yeah.
I remember working with one client, and she said she never remembered feeling happy. From the day she was born, she always felt sad, upset, lonely, disconnected. And we found it was like 20 generations before. And when we released it, she was like a whole new woman. It was amazing. She said, I cannot believe, and the physical effects that she had. She was suffering from so many internal issues, and they went
Mm,
away too. So it
yeah.
wasn't just that inner thought process.
Right. Yeah, it's so amazing. And just thinking of, I hear stories a lot of people who will say, I don't understand, maybe this is baby number 4 and nothing I do soothes the baby. Not like any other kid. What's going on? There's something like, did I do something wrong? Right. And sometimes it's like, well, maybe there's just something that happened that you have no idea in the womb. It could have been something generational that not everything hits every generation either. So I always think of when we've got that perfect storm going on, right? There's a lot of that. That's what epigenetics is, certain keys that unlock other things that can impact us in the body. So, how does that impact a new baby that's crying? It's like not like any other ones. How do I soothe this baby? Well, I think generational trauma. I think of there's something that needs to be released. So, sometimes it's things we don't even really imagine. It's just, oh, that's just normal, right? There's so many things we just view as normal in our society, and I don't think a lot of it's supposed to be. It might appear to be a little bit, but it shouldn't be normalized the way that it is.
Absolutely. So that baby was able to be soothed and comforted through you releasing that.
Yeah, it's
Amazing.
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 Yeah.
We're going to continue this conversation in just a moment. Remember, you can support the movement of bringing empowerment to the world by just subscribing to the channel, sharing it, commenting. That is energy as well. And that intention makes a ripple difference through the world. So please use your energy and your intention while we're on our commercial and subscribe. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
So in the break, Judith and we were talking about the fact that while I was going to the doctor and saying, I'm not sleeping, I'm in pain, I have headaches, all these things. And he was asking me what my traumas were. Did I have these stresses? I went, no. What are you talking about? And I realized that with the emotion code, I did not need to be cognitively, consciously aware of the cause in order for it to be healed and released with this energy healing.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about that modality is that you don't have to talk about it. So that's one of the things I love in some of the trauma work that I do is, you know, people get a little scared to come in with sometimes good reason because they don't want to relive what they've experienced. And they think, oh, I have to tell my story again, or I don't want to relive this. I don't even know I want to think about it. So why would I come in and talk about it? So when there's tools that can be used instead that still work, they're still effective. You know, even if it's just calming the nervous system to start with, then it gets people on the right path so that they can integrate that trauma and it's not impacting their life in the same way.
Absolutely. So let's transition from energy healing, and we're talking about the effects of the physical body, the illness, the immune system breakdown, the not feeling well, to full on blown disease.
Yeah.
How do we use Western medicine? I'm trying to be politically correct. I give up. How do we get away from pills and platitudes and surgery and get into just healing?
Yeah. So it's a really great question. I think, like you said, energy it's the medicine of the future, right? And so I think that people are understanding what this looks like more and more. And so, like one of the tools that I use, it's a bioresonance scanner that it identifies the frequencies that are happening in the body in that given moment. And so
Okay.
it can, yeah,
Back up.
yeah.
What is that?
So a bioresonance scanner, let's see, how's the best way to describe it? It uses like a database to help identify, almost like when you go get blood work or when
Okay.
you get an MRI, there's a sequence of, a way that you're measuring whatever that data is that's coming in. So a bioresonance scanner is similar. It's identifying some of the same types of markers, but in a different way. And so you can scan the blood, you can scan the liver. So every organ vibrates at a different frequency. And there's ways that you can tell if it's healthy or not because it's in that range. Just like when you go and get your blood work and you're like, how's my thyroid doing? And you want it to be within the range. If it's too high or too low, then it may or may not be the thyroid, but something's impacting the thyroid. And so the bioresonance scanner does the same thing. So if the liver is vibrating at a different frequency than what is healthy, then it's going to pull up a number of different areas to look at that might be impacting that. And sometimes that's our emotions. And so there's a scan that's specific for the inner voice and those emotions because those emotions impact the body just as much as the body impacts the emotions, right? So it's a really great tool that helps bring some of those pieces into balance and helps the body, when we're back in balance, we get to heal more efficiently. And so I don't know that we're ever completely in balance, but as long as we're getting closer to that mark, then we're going to see less of those diseases, less of the emotional components. We're going to be healthier mind, body, spirit, right? And so anytime we can pull those pieces into a better space, then it's a good tool to use. So that's something that I like to use with my clients to help them understand what's going on in their body, but also primarily, since I do more of the therapy work, targeting the emotions.
Okay. So, bioresonance. Is that something that we have to physically give cell tissue or bloods or something? How does that work? Like, how do you work with these clients and use this machine?
It's energy. So I think of it like a Fitbit. When you wear a Fitbit on your wrist and it's measuring, it's not touching your heart, but it's measuring your heart rate. When it's measuring what are the steps that you're taking, or maybe some of the other markers that are going on in the body. So it's similar to that. People will say, well, that's touching me. So how is that different? It's still energy. So this gives I always think of it, it's always hard to explain. It's quantum physics, quantum entanglement. And again, I kind of bring it back to the idea of prayer. Um, and it's that idea of like when you walk into a room and you can feel the energy. And sometimes you're like, I don't want to be here. It feels weird. You're still in the physical space. So sometimes people might say, well, okay, again, how does that work if I'm across the country from you? It's also that idea of I think of like a telephone. If I dial your number, how does it know to go to you and not your next door neighbor or the person across the street from me? It's an energy that is basically translated. It's intended for you, almost like a prayer, almost like it's intention. So I guess it's a little bit tricky to explain. There's some really great deep dives that people have gone into it, but that's kind of the simple version that I like to explain. Or
So,
even that idea of like you get that nudge, right? Like somebody's thinking of you and then they call you.
or vice versa.
Vice versa. Yep.
So, what about someone who does not know what is going on? They just don't feel well. They're not performing the way they used to. It could be stress, it could be, traumas, it could be all sorts of things. But how do you fix something if you don't know what it is? Will this bioresonance identify where the root cause is?
It can. It's not diagnostic because it's energy, right? And energy changes all the time. But it gives you lots of clues as to what's out of balance. So I always think when certain emotions are coming up all the time, let's just say guilt. Okay, well, guilt is coming up. Why is guilt coming up? We need to work on that because you can see where it's impacting other pieces in the body. Or your liver is out of balance. So, what are some of the markers that are also indicative that the liver is not functioning the way that it should? It's not processing or draining. So, it gives a lot of clues. It's a great tool that I really do think, I hope that the more doctors, even if it's naturopaths to start with, is going to get on this bandwagon and be able to connect those dots, because I'm not a medical practitioner in the same way. So some of those pieces don't make sense to me in the same way that it does for somebody who has that medical backing and knows all of the ins and outs of what causes what and how they're linked. But even a general person can look at some of the things and just say, yeah, this is coming up regularly, is out of balance. How do I fix it? And so that at least gives a starting point, whether you're talking to a doctor, whether you're just even using, emotions or other frequency, emotion code, a lot of different ways where it's like, how do I target this? It's not just based on the frequency, but it gives you more information.
I'm so excited about this because we have been taught that we need to put our health in the hands of someone else. And we need to just trust what they say to us because we're not educated. We don't know what's going on. We didn't go to medical school. But what I'm hearing you say is we can heal ourselves.
Yes. And I think we need to really take a bigger stance because we know what we need. So even if we don't consciously know, there's a lot that we just know. Like even through the last few years where there's just been a lot of medical decisions that needed to be made, people know what's right for them. Is this a good choice for me or not? They don't necessarily need to be convinced. They just know this is right or wrong for me. Um, they don't always know why. I always think of, like anytime I've been to the doctor or any kind of anything, sometimes I'm just like, do I really need that? Is that beneficial? And I knew for years that my hormones were off. Nobody listened to me. And I knew. And it's just like, okay, 20 years later, now people are telling me, yeah, they're off. It's like, okay, well, I knew that 20 years ago. Nobody was listening. So I think it's very crucial that we are a very active part, if not the main part of our own health. We have to be because, I mean, we know doctor visits, you go in and you're done in 5 minutes. What are they supposed to do? So even though, they can draw some labs, they can do some things, they might have some good information, but you have to take it back. You have to take things into your own hands and be in charge of that. So finding the tools that work for each one of us and make sense, we just have to be more proactive.
I love that because one of the things that I always used to question was the placebo effect, which was the drug companies' ways of saying that my pill didn't create this effect only, that the placebo, but they didn't ever articulated what the placebo effect was, which was our thoughts, our beliefs,
Mhm.
the energy that we were creating on our own.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and we hear stories all the time of people who maybe, they're dying or have to go into a surgery to get something removed, and then, they change their thinking about it. And then next thing you know, they're like, we don't need to do this surgery anymore. I don't know what happened. Maybe we just made a mistake. No, you didn't make a mistake. They just made a different choice in their life, and the outcome is different. So it's very powerful when you actually see those things happen.
Absolutely. How do you work with your clients to integrate the physical and the emotional. Um, I'm going to hold this topic because it's bigger than what we have time for. I just want to prime that that's what we're going to talk about in the next segment. So, if you're ready to explain how we can take all this information and actually be empowered to be self directed and self healing by bringing in the resources and the tools and everything that's available to us. When we
Sounds
come
good.
back from this commercial, we will tackle that topic. Stay with us and don't forget to subscribe.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
My mission with Unlearn the Crap and everything that I do is to bring the message to everyone that we have everything we need within us, that we can be self-directed, we can be self-empowered, and that it is imperative that we take sole responsibility for our lives, our outcomes, our results, by owning everything on the inside and then reaching out when we need help. Because we've been disconnected from our communities, from our mentors. I don't know how many hundreds of years ago we were raised with small villages where everybody was integrated and everybody supported everybody in different ways. But now we're living in a time and age where we're expected to know it all, do it all, and we are suffering. You are one of those resources that is part of the Unlearn the Crap community that I recommend and refer for this type of healing. Could you explain what it's like to work with you?
So how I generally work with clients is I get to know them a little bit, kind of what's going on, because like I said, it's not just talk therapy. We have to know a little bit about, you know, big events, small events, what's going on in the physical body, where some of the challenges are. So it's a very comprehensive look, in a lot of cases, as to what are we focusing on? What's the goal? So depending on what somebody's goal is, they don't always want to deal with the trauma. Maybe they just want some direction in life, so like, how do we move forward? What are the things that are blocking? So, so using some of the tools that I use, then we get to identify, okay, which is going to be the best to target what you need. So sometimes it's aroma work. It might be some of the emotion code, body code type of work. The bioresonance scanner might be a combination of all of it, maybe a little bit of like talk therapy or some other tools in there too. So it's very customizable to each person. And then I have a lot of vetted products that, depending on what a person needs, they have other resources and supplements that they can utilize based on some of the recommendations, and know that what they're getting is quality too. So every person's a little different. It's very custom.
And that is why I have partnered with you and have you in my community, because we are not all the same. We do not have the same generational DNA, traumas, thought processes, physical results. And having somebody who can work through that mess with you.
Yeah, so everybody is a little bit, some people are more hands off, some people want to be more hands on. So it's a little bit more like, where can I guide you, or where do I need to actually direct and work alongside? So every client's a little different. And so that's part of what I love, though, is that it's very unique, and we're all puzzles in some way, and I get to help put some of those puzzles in place and help people kind of navigate their own puzzle to, find the pieces that are missing, and, you know, just be more whole eventually, right? That's the goal.
Speaking of that, can you give us an example of what someone's life is like when they go through this self-empowerment healing journey, handling the emotions, the energy, the physical, the lifestyle, and now what can they expect after working with you?
Oh, I love seeing the outcome of some of the clients that I get to work with, because I think, like you said, connection, right? A lot of times people don't feel connected. They feel like something's wrong with me. They feel like just all of this burden that they're carrying, that once that's gone and they just know that they are who they are, and these pieces are coming together to be who they're designed to be, they're they just feel more empowered. The community that they hold, and just I think the outlook that they have is just wonderful. So I just love seeing clients come out the other side, and, the mind, body, spirit piece. It's like we're all connected, and to see them start stepping into the life that they're actually designed for is just so amazing. I can't even put words to it, really, just to see that transition.
My little happy tail is wagging away, because that is my mission, my vision, that we all live in that place. Because we live in a universal world, so what happens inside is what we project and create outside. And so, if we want to have this fantastic life of abundance and health and wealth and peace and passion and prosperity and all these things, we cannot create it from the outside. It's not created out externally from us.
Yeah, we need that connection. We need community. We need, to be able to, I guess you could say, vibe higher, right? Because I used to think that was a little bit of a goofy thing, very hippie to be able to say, the vibes and all that sort of stuff. But it's true that, we're going to be healthier. We're going to be thinking better. We're just going to be interacting with community, and we can see the people in our community who are in that place where, they're thriving, and you can see it, versus the people who are not. And they don't even have to be the people on the street or something like that. It's just the people in the community. You get that sense of, where they are, and how much they enjoy life, and what are they doing for other people in the community based on just their wholeness and where they are. So, I mean, yeah, it's a struggle sometimes to get there, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. it just occurred to me that there's so many people who are chasing the American dream and they're finding success, whether it is notoriety or financial success or whatever, and they are still struggling. We have lost some amazing people because it appeared on the outside that they had it all the things that we thought we would be able to be happy and healthy if we just had that. But when we come to ourselves and we heal those traumas and we release the negative energy and we step into our full alignment, that's where we can create on the outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get to tap into that creative side and just those pieces that are more authentic and just beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Judith. I am so excited that you were here with us. I encourage everyone who's watching, if Judith has touched you, if she's aligned with you, reach out to her. Her link is right here on the screen, but it's also going to be in the show notes. But you can also interact with her by joining the Unlearn the Crap community and becoming a member, where you're going to meet not only people as amazing as Judith who are putting their heart and soul on the line to help others, but you'll be part of a community where you will find accountability and support and resources. Thank you, Judith, for being on the show. Thank you for being a part of the collaborative community. And thank you so much for what you are bringing to this world.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching another Unlearn the Crap TV show. We will be back next Thursday with an amazing guest that I cannot wait to introduce you to, Sanjay Raha from Recipe for Wellness, a TV show that I was a guest in. So join us next week and I will see you soon. Until then, don't forget to challenge everything so you can achieve anything.
This has been Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Tune in each week as Kathy challenges you to rethink everything you know about personal empowerment and societal structures. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.